Good day, Dr. Himang. I'm Samson P. Pancho Jr. and I'm excited to present my topic in research methodology today. So let's get started. In qualitative research, we focus on understanding human behavior and experiences. And the two main techniques that are used to collect data are observation and interviewing. And that's what my topic is all about. But before we get started, these are the following objectives that we need to achieve in this session. This time, let's delve into the first technique. We have the observation. It is ideal for gaining insights into actual behaviors in sensitive or dynamic settings. It allows researchers to capture real-time interactions and contexts that other methods may miss. Certain research questions are best answered by observing how people act or how things look, as a more accurate indication of their activities is often obtained through direct observation. And the degree of observer participation can vary considerably. Thus, there are two primary roles that a researcher can take. The first one is participant observation, and the second one is non-participant observation. Let's start with the first observer role. We have the participant observation. It is where the researcher participates in the group either covertly or overtly. So that leads to the roles of participant observation. So the first one is the complete participant observation. It is where the researchers actively and covertly engage in the situation or setting they are observing. When a researcher takes on the role of a complete participant, their identity is not known to those being observed. So, the researcher interacts with the group as naturally as possible and is perceived by the participants as just another member. For example, a researcher might spend a year serving as a teacher in an inner city classroom, performing all the duties of a teacher without revealing their research intentions. However, this covert observation raises ethical concerns due to the lack of informed consent. On the other hand, in the role of a participant as observer, the researcher fully and overtly engages in the activities of the group while openly disclosing their role as a researcher. So now let's move on to the second primary role of the observer. It is the non-participant observation. In this one, the researcher observes without participating in the activity. Instead, they sit on the sidelines and watch without direct involvement. This type of observation has varying levels of interaction and visibility. So the first one is observer as participant. It is where the researcher's role is known, but they remain detached from the activities. The second level is complete observer, where the researcher has no interaction with the subject and is often unnoticed by them. Now, there are common forms of non-participant observation. The first one is naturalistic observation. It is observing subjects in their natural settings without manipulating variables. This method is useful for understanding behaviors as they occur naturally. The second one is simulation. It is creating scenarios for participants to enact and allowing the researchers to observe behaviors in specific situations. So there are two types. The first one is individual role playing, where one personal acts out a situation, and the other one is the team role playing, where a group engages in a scenario focusing on interaction dynamics. So these methods offer insights into behavior and social interactions in controlled setting or simulation. However, in conducting observation, there are also challenges. The first one is the observer effect. The observer effect highlights how the presence of an observer can alter the behavior of those being studied, potentially impacting the research outcomes. Because reactivity is a common issue, as individuals may change their behavior when they are aware of being observed. Thus, as researchers, Thus, to minimize this, researchers often take steps to familiarize participants with their presence beforehand. However, if subjects are aware of the study's focus, they might intentionally modify their actions, which can result in unrepresented data and compromise the accuracy of the findings. And that's it. So another challenge is the observer bias. It occurs when personal beliefs and experiences influence what researchers perceive during the observations. And this challenge affects all researchers, particularly in qualitative studies. So, to mitigate bias, researchers strive for objectivity by immersing themselves in the environment and reflecting on their perspectives through detailed field notes. So those are the challenges when conducting an observations. However, there are also techniques on how to successfully do it. The first one is decoding observational data. So these schemes are used to categorize observed behaviors systematically, allowing researchers to quantify specific actions such as asking questions or giving directions. The next one is the use of technology. It enhances observational research by allowing the recording of behaviors for later analysis. So through video and recordings, it will help researchers review the interactions and make coding decisions. And those are the techniques on how to successfully conduct an observation. So now, let's move on to another major technique commonly used by qualitative researchers, which is interviewing. It is a key qualitative data collection method that involves asking relevant questions to verify insights from observations, and it helps researchers to uncover individuals' thoughts and feelings, thus providing access to information that cannot be directly observed. So there are three types of conducting interviews. So the first one is structured and semi-structured interviews. These are more formal and involves using specific verbal questionnaires to gather targeted information. The second one is informal interviews. These tend to be more casual and conversational, aiming to uncover personal perspectives. However, while they can be insightful, they can also present ethical challenges, requiring the interviewer to be particularly sensitive and mindful of the participants' comfort. And the last one is retrospective interviews. In this, participants are asked to recall past events and the structure can vary. However, the data gathered can be less reliable because it relies on memory, which can sometimes be influenced by time. During an interview, there are also key actors. These are the knowledgeable individuals within a group who provide valuable insights into the culture and dynamics. Their contributions can enhance the understanding of the context and validate other data collected through interviews and observations. And now, let's move on to the types of interview questions. So we have, according to Patton, there are 6 basic types. So the first one is background questions. Second is knowledge questions. Third is experience questions. Fourth is opinion question. Sixth is feeling question. And the last one are sensory questions. So now, while we are interviewing our participants, there are also behaviors or considerations to keep in mind for us to ensure that our interviews are respectful, insightful, and effective. Thus, we have these 11 interviewing behaviors. However, among all these principles or behaviors, respect for the individual being interviewed stands out as a paramount because it is the foundation that ensures trust and cooperation, creating an environment where participants feel safe and valued. Without respect, all other ethical considerations may lose their effect. In qualitative research, understanding diverse perspectives is essential. One effective method to achieve this is through focus group interviews. It involves a small group of participants discussing a series of questions together. This format allows participants to hear and respond to each other's viewpoints. So now, let's move on to the guide in recording interview data. Accurately capturing interview responses is critical for reliable qualitative research. Thus, tape recorders are invaluable tools as they provide an exact and biased account of what is said. However, note-taking still remains essential. Lastly, it is ethically important for interviewers to obtain informed consent because in-depth interviews often require participants to share sensitive information, which necessitates protecting their vulnerability. And that's it. That's the end of my report, and I would like you to read this quote. Once again, thank you so much.